Hey everyone, I'm Carlos Davalos, and you're listening to Stories of Ours by Vision2Reality Foundation. This is more than just a podcast, it's a space for courage, resilience, and reinvention. Each episode, we dive deep into real journeys of newcomers to Canada, the challenges they faced, the breakthroughs they've earned, and how they turned uncertainty into opportunity. Whether you're starting fresh or chasing new dreams, these stories are here to remind you that you're not alone and greatness lives within you. Let's go! Welcome back, everyone, to Stories of Ours, where we explore the real, raw, and I would say powerful journeys of newcomers in navigating life and careers in Canada. So today's episode is titled Fighting Stigmas and Stereotypes, Protecting Your Mental Health and as a Newcomer in Canada. So a theme that is often overlooked, but so critical to thriving in a new country. So first of all, I want to acknowledge our speakers. Our two guests are Shabnam Khalaj. She came from Iran in 2018, and Waju Leonid Assid. He came from Nigeria or Cameroon. Waju, yeah. So
Cameroon,
Cameroon, perfect. 6 months ago, correct?
just 5 months, getting to
Five
six
months.
months. Yep.
Perfect. And well, both of them are two individuals with very different pathways, but I think they have one thing in common. That is the courage of starting again. So I did myself as well. So I think it's courageous. So I want to acknowledge both of my speakers. In this episode, we dive into their stories, their losses, the resilience, the mental toll of immigration, and the beauty of rebuilding from the inside out. Whether you're a newcomer yourself or someone looking to understand the emotional side of the immigrant journey, this conversation is for you. So let's get into it. So let's start from the beginning. Can each of you tell us what brought you to Canada? And what was your mindset or expectation when you first arrived? And what was the reality? So maybe, Shabnam, can you start? If that's okay.
Yeah, sure, Carlos. Thank you for the question. So I moved to Canada in 2018 to do my master's in economics at UBC. And what brought me to Canada was family. I had my uncle living here, and he was someone I would always look up to. He was really pro challenging yourself and getting higher education somewhere else. So when I started university, the goal was always that I do my master's somewhere else. In terms of what were the expectations, I feel like I had no expectations other than I'm just moving somewhere with two suitcases to do my master's. And I guess that's both the positive and negative in being young and making decisions because you don't really think about some of the precautions and things that you actually need to think about when you're making a decision. So in that sense, I didn't come in with any expectations of what is going to happen. Learned soon in 2 weeks or so that I have signed up myself for a lot of challenges and a lot of struggle. But I think not having a preconceived, I guess, notion of how things are supposed to go was useful because I wasn't really attached in, I guess, to how my experience was supposed to be.
And what was the purpose behind why Canada? Why not somewhere else?
I wanted to go somewhere that I have an idea of what it actually was like. And I have traveled to Canada before to see my family a couple of summers. When I was applying to grad school, I only applied to two countries I had family in, and I have actually seen the country. I was like, I don't want to go somewhere that I haven't even seen before. So that was kind of the motivation to choosing Canada.
Thanks for sharing, Shabam. And how about you, Waju?
Yeah, I moved in Canada. I moved to Canada just 5 months ago. That I got to Canada 29th of May, 2025. Yeah, I came to Canada to work primarily because my family is here. The most important person in my life had moved to Canada 2 years ago, just few weeks after we got married. So she visited some time ago, last year, 2024. And it's kind of hard to be away from your wife and she's chasing her dreams. She wanted this master's, and why not PhD? So we sat together, had it in our minds, we talked about it, and I gave her the support, you can go ahead. But again, the gap between us and in the early days of our marriage, the early years of our marriage was so difficult to contain, especially the time difference with Canada and my home country. 8 hours difference. When she's ready to talk, I'm asleep. And when I'm ready to talk, she's resting or she's at work and stuff like that. So it kind of was a problem communicating. So we kind of had little issues in our communication, and it was a stress. So one thing led to another, life happens, and I had to move to Canada primarily to be with my wife and to work as well. Yeah, I didn't really, yeah, always moving to a new country, especially a developed country from my own perspective, my own country where I'm coming from, the expectations are always high. Of course, you're going to get a job, you're going to be working, and especially with what we see on TV, like in the movies, you know how it is. So your expectation, the flashy cars and all that fairy tale, it's so exciting. But when you get on the ground, when you land, it's something totally different. So yeah, one way or another, it was like a 50-50 for me. I wasn't expecting so much, but I was expecting so much on the other hand, because Canada is an English speaking country, and I come from an English speaking country with some level of professional qualification. So the expectation was, oh, when I get to Canada within 1-2 months, when I familiarize myself with catching the bus, getting on the train, getting around the community, I could get myself a job somewhere in along my line of profession. But that was not the case when I got to Canada. It was a whole lot different. So my expectations from like 90, they got down to like 25. It was really mind draining. Yeah, but it's fine now.
So you're talking about kind of okay, some emotions that you were feeling. So, and you're also mentioning that it was a completely different thing from what you expected since the moment you came down from the plane,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
How did that felt emotionally? So you're mentioning that you felt like mind draining, and was there a moment that what was the moment where you realized, hey, like this is really hard, harder than I thought?
The first thing was I was coming to see my wife. We were going to break that gap that had been existing between us after marriage. So when I landed from the plane, I saw my wife first thing. I saw my longtime friend from childhood. It was like it was so exciting. But 1, 2, 3, 4 days, a week went by, that excitement kind of died down. And now you're faced with the reality. My wife goes to school. I'm left at home by myself. My friend goes to work. I get to see him on weekends. I'm left in the house with the four walls of the house surrounding me. A man who was used to going to work Monday to Friday and being so involved in a lot of activities. I got so busy back home that Monday to Sunday, I was that very busy. Extracurricular activities on the weekends, community activities on the weekends, and work activities weekdays. So I found myself sitting at home 2 weeks, nothing to do, job applications, no response. Though I got one interview in my second week of landing in Canada, I got an interview, but I lost the interview. I lost the job. No, I lost the interview. I didn't get the job. So the reality kind of dawned on me. Like, is this really the right choice? So that was the question. And it really strained my relationship with my wife, because many times she will come back home and the communication will not flow, because all the stress of being at home and I'm using money because I was using the train, going from one job fair to the next, buying food, getting Uber, and all that stuff. I was using money and I wasn't getting money. So it was now stress. And there was that feeling like, oh, you didn't do the right thing. You could have stayed home and waited for your wife and just continue managing the stress of communication that you have been used to for like 2 years. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, for me, I feel my first 6 months in Canada is like uh, I had kind of a similar situation like you. I was expecting like beautiful things, beautiful scenarios that, of course, they were beautiful, but emotionally, it was like a roller coaster. It's like a wipeout that kicked you all over the place from different sides. And it's like when you're in the bottom and seeing up is when I started to see the lights. So in this case, I remember I was working in Safeway overnight, yeah, and I worked during the day, and I felt so tired. I remember in Safeway just putting the displays and things, and I went home like I was really depressed. I feel I right now. Well, I think I've showed this before that my weight right now is 85 kilograms. I weighed 65 kilograms in my bottom side, like 20 kilograms less than now. So I remember I went home and my wife saw me like pretty low, pretty down, and and she was also feeling pretty super bad, so she couldn't help me. So she just gave me a book, please start reading and start hearing podcasts because I just listened to music at night because it was overnight, there was no one there to speak to. And I started to do that. I feel and I passed out because I was too tired a couple of times, so I just fainted. I passed out a couple of times, so it was pretty harsh as well. But then I started to see a light during the way. So in your case, Shabnam, how did it felt for you emotionally? Of course, it was also a bit different for you. I also felt the stress from your end, like similar as your end, Waju, that I felt like I was wasting money every single day, and every single day was thinking like, did I made the best choice? And so that's I feel related to you because I feel kind of the same. How about you, Shabnam?
I think I resonate with that feeling of being on a roller coaster and things are hitting you from 500 different directions because there are so many different things you need to take care of. Like there are concrete things like money and finding work and getting used to a new country and kind of all the emotions of missing people and now kind of getting used to a different environment. So there are some practical things that sometimes feels like you don't have space to feel down or feel sad because there is these 500 practical things that you need to take care of and no one else can take care of them except you. So you can't just be sad and sit somewhere. Like you're sad and tired and at the same time doing all these kind of 500 things. And I would say for me, the first 6 months, I tell everyone it's a blur. Like I don't remember much of what was happening, what was going on. Like everything was going on in such a fast-paced way that it almost felt like an out-of-body experience. Like it wasn't me who were doing things. It was like everything is happening outside of my control. I don't know how things are getting done, but I'm getting them done. But it feels kind of unreal. It was a lot of overwhelm, I think, to a point that I didn't really feel like myself in a way.
And well, Shabnam, and also you came here with family that they were kind of nearby, right? But they moved away the same year. So what did that did to you in terms of belonging and stability? Like what changed during that process?
I think a lot of like questioning why did I even move this far away? Because I could have moved somewhere a lot closer if it wasn't like because of moving for family. I could have gone to Europe. That would be a 5-hour flight instead of a 30-hour flight to Canada. But also at the same time, I think it gave me an opportunity to find my own community. If I was so kind of nested in my own family, I think I wouldn't have sought opportunities to create a community that is mine. But it also kind of provided me with a chance to think beyond Vancouver in what I want to do. So when I was, for instance, looking for a job, I wasn't really thinking I should stay in Vancouver because I didn't have many reasons to stay here. Anywhere kind of in Canada at this point would be the same. I don't have anyone there. I need to start from zero. So that kind of also gave me the courage of just moving to Ottawa for my first job because to me, I had to start from somewhere. And if there wasn't a concrete community I had anywhere, then I could have started anywhere.
I think that community side is something that we'll touch base later, but I also want to keep that as an important point. But also from what you on your end, you were leading a business. You kind of had like a stable life back home. I think you had multiple income streams too. So how did you mentally process? And of course, you went to a fire at the end. That's what made you come here.
Yep.
So maybe you can share a bit. But how do you mentally process losing everything and starting over in Canada?
Like if you ever talk with most people coming from West Africa, I don't know how it is for the other African countries and some other countries that are underdeveloped. We of this generation have gone through a lot growing up. Not like in the negative sense, but in the positive sense. We are being grown up, or we are being brought up to know that life doesn't happen. You make life to happen. And there are things you do that maybe this side of the world will see as child abuse. But way back in my country, it's like letting the child grow up to face the toughest of challenges. Because nobody knows tomorrow. Like you don't know the immediate things that will happen to you tomorrow. Not like you want the negative things. We always expect positives, but we are caught up in the middle of positives and negatives. So when I had this fire incident consuming the whole business, and it was like you have to go back to zero. I even lost my laptop that had my school projects and lots of things projects had been designing, and there wasn't any way back. And it was like 2 days of not thinking, just being caught up in darkness. Nothing like you can reason or you can think or you can even figure out something. It was just a gloomy 2 days. But after that, I told myself, because I'm a very spiritual person too. So I told myself, if I am still alive, it means there is something I can still do. Otherwise, I would have died with the fire. But if I live to see the next day, and I still have both hands, I still have both eyes, and I can stand on both feet, and my mind is still balanced. Everything that was made that God lost was because I was walking. So I just need to have that mindset, accept the reality, and know that it's not going to change. I can only be the change. Then something positive can come out of it. So I stood up, I told myself, you know what? It is what it is. Life happens. You have to get back on your feet and you just have to get pushing. Within 3 days, started from a small corner. And from there, one thing to another, gave calls to different clients, and people were coming out of empathy. People were coming out of solidarity, and we started something. But it wasn't as big as it used to be, like nothing compared. And since it was related to family, my eldest brother took charge. Then the reality of missing my wife came in. Like in those days of that fire, I had nobody to stand beside me. Like, yes, my parents would talk to me, people will come in, but I'll be in my room by myself, and I could only talk to my wife on phone. She spent like a week crying, missed classes that week because she was imagining the stress I was going through by myself. And she said, you know what? Let's be thinking about you moving over here and starting over. And coming to Canada with the mindset of being like you are giving orders, now I have to take orders. That was the bone of contention. That was the tough one. And again, culturally, I am not used to. A man is not supposed to sit home and the woman goes out and brings the money. The woman acts as a support, adding to the little, she adds little to what the man makes. So when I got to Canada for the first 2 weeks, I was seated at home. My wife would do the groceries. I would support her. It was like I felt like the wife and she was the husband. And this was a challenge to my personality, my integrity, and my status as well. Because back home, in addition to the business, I had this great position in the community, like a position of respect, where I would sit with people and we talk at very high levels. But coming to Canada, no, it was very far from that, like 21 hours of flight across the Atlantic Ocean, 8 hours difference from home, no family member with you in Canada, away from all your friends, away from all your activities that brought excitement and laughter and all that. It was like a blow, like a knockout blow to me. And yeah, I
Well,
braved it
but
up.
you mentioned something pretty interesting for me, like
Yeah,
a quote that stayed with me. You mentioned nothing needs to change. I need to be the change.
yeah,
So that's what you said to yourself
yeah,
when you were back in
yeah.
Cameroon.
In Cameroon.
So when you came here to Canada, uh, how are you applying this in your life currently? Because right now you faced a completely different culture, a
Yeah.
completely different scenario with your wife doing things and you kind of inserting yourself in the community. How are you managing yourself in that way?
Yeah, like I said, the first 2 weeks were quite challenging. So right after my first interview, I lost the opportunity. I told myself I can't stay at home. I can't keep aiming for what I used to be back home. I am in the reality of me not being in my comfort zone dawned on me. And I said, oh, I am in a strange place, in a new place. I need to know how the place works. And the best way for you to know how it works is to start from the bottom. So I was moving on the streets of Surrey. And out of the blue, I came across this community, Options Community Service. So they had seminars. I just met people, went into offices, asked questions, went to different hiring agencies, deposited my applications, made my intentions known. Still was still challenging. And somebody told me at Options, I will never forget this guy. He said, I know you were a salesperson. I know you were managing this thing back home, but you have to start from somewhere. I'll tell you a little trick. What you need now is a survival job. You need to survive. You need to pay the bills. You need to take care of your wife. You need to take care of yourself. You need all these things. And if you're going to have that dream job, why not go in for the survival job while you are anticipating or you're looking for the dream job? That way you get to make something and it takes away the stress of not being the man you used to be back home. And that really rang a bell in my head. And and I asked questions around, which is the most easy of jobs to get, that you don't need absolute skills, you just need regular skills. Like, it's just down to your physicality. And they say, construction, can you do construction? I said, why not? I can do construction. What's the requirement? You're required to lift at least 25 pounds of weight. You need to be physically fit and stuff and stuff. I passed the test from my perspective. So I did 2 interviews, succeeded in all. I made my choice of the one I'm currently working with. And the fact that every day I leave and go out, which was something I used to do back home, gave me that little peace, though it was not what I used to do, because now I'm learning a whole lot different things. Construction, never did construction, never worked in a place where I would have my entire outfit messed up. But no, I accepted. I have to start from somewhere. I have to start from scratch, and you build up. While I'm at work, I'm talking to people. You just get friendly, you get to meet people. But if you stay at home, you won't meet people. For example, I met Carlos, it was through Options Community Service that I got the idea of a volunteering position at a Vision2Reality. And when I started talking with Winnie, it was like we have been talking for some time. So I just decided to have that outgoing mind and to talk to anybody, regardless of your expression. No, it doesn't matter. Because I understood that in Canada, social networking helps a lot. I am not in my country. And for you to break from that very tight space, you need to be able to talk. You need to be able to interrelate with people. And from day one at work, I wasn't knowledgeable in construction work. No. I met my supervisor. First thing, I started just outgoing with him, as maybe we have been friends, or we've known each other for a very long time. And I was working with 2 Colombian guys. Their English, no, it wasn't really very good. So during the break, I would get into their conversations. I will use my Google Translate, say things to them in Spanish, just to get a cheerful environment around me, because I know I thrive very well when I'm in a place where I can express myself, I can talk to people. It doesn't matter. I just want to talk, because I stay at home all by myself until my wife comes home. I don't talk to anybody. So if I go out, I have to talk. So that resilience of not giving into your current situation, but coming out, like thinking out of the box and just doing something different, was what really kept me going. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Waju. And Shabnam, you have also shared part of your story too that relates to what Waju also just aforementioned. And actually, you came to Vancouver study your master's. I know then you decided to go to Ottawa, but then COVID came. And your idea to create a community and start it again in Ottawa kind of changed completely. So then you decide to come here again, etc. So can you tell us a bit about that journey and how you went through it? Because you kind of were by yourself. So how was that for you mentally?
I think when kind of you move to a new country, sometimes the idea of like a community feels like a huge thing. Like there are many people that it's very different than when you're back at home, when you can just call someone and then hang out with 10 people. As was kind of mentioned before, it takes a lot of effort to create those kind of connections with people. And And sometimes that's hard to do when you're actually at work, because sometimes people come to work and they're like, oh, I'm at work. I already have the community that I have around me. Work is just work. And I'm not really interested in kind of making friends or creating a community at work. So I feel like it was a lot more challenging moving to a place for work than when I was just studying, because as a default, when you are in an institution, when you're studying, going to class every day with people, you kind of have that community at hand all the time. But when you kind of move for work, people are there for just that amount of hours to do something specific and they just want to go home. So it was a lot more challenging moving to Ottawa to really kind of create that community. And I had a lot of times where I was just like spending time by myself. I go to work, I come back, and then I go ice skating in Ottawa. It was something that I picked up there because I would come home and I would be like, okay, I'm not really feeling that great staying at home. It feels too quiet. There is no one to talk to. There was this small ice skating rink close to my place, and I was like, okay, I have roller skated before. I think I can pick this up. So I just bought a pair of ice skates for myself. I fell a couple of times. Wasn't that fun? But then it became my thing to get myself out of my head in the lack of that community, of not really kind of thinking about it all the time, of being like, I'm here by myself. There's no one else. I don't have any community. So sometimes I think it's about just getting yourself out of the house and do things that gives you joy alone. And that's something that I think took a lot of kind of mind shift, because I was always used to doing things with people. That was my thing. Like doing things with people was something that gave me joy. So I had to kind of really look inside and be like, what will give me joy outside of people? What is an activity I can do just by myself? And kind of doing that transition back to Vancouver, it was nice to kind of recognize a time where I couldn't do it by myself anymore. So I moved for work. I was there for a couple of months before the pandemic hit, and I had already kind of a routine that would help me kind of mentally move forward. But then COVID hit, and I was trying all of these kind of tools in my toolbox that I already had, and nothing was working. So I think that was a moment where I was like, I can't do this by myself. And it's okay to kind of go back to Vancouver. I knew two people from my class in my master's. Maybe I will just kind of talk to them about wanting to live together and kind of create that small community in COVID. But it took a lot of kind of time for me to really figure out what are some of the spaces I can navigate myself and I can push myself to just navigate and be okay, and what are some of the times where I need to lean on other people and be okay with that. And that was part of the journey that was really hard for me, because I kind of came really from a culture of you figure it out on your own. That's kind of kind of sign of strength, and that's how kind of we have raised you as a daughter to be able to kind of rely on yourself. So just unlearning that part of, I can rely on myself, but it's okay if some things are easier if I like a little bit rely on other people too.
But it's so challenging, the unlearning side, because it's just facing your ego face to face and you're saying, hey, what your reality in the past was completely wrong. So you need to change. Tough. And didn't you think in a certain moment of, hey, maybe I should go back home? Or it was never in your mind?
I think it was never in my mind, because I'm someone who, when sets a goal, just wants to achieve it.
I
And
know that.
maybe
I know that.
and I think maybe there were moments that if I let myself, I would have wanted to, but I never put that on the table as an option. So for me, kind of the person I am, that not doing something is not an option. which I think comes in as a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's a good thing because I push and push to get things done. And sometimes it's kind of that, as you're saying, kind of recognition and coming face to face with, is this one of those moments when I need to push, or is it okay if I admit I was wrong? It didn't ever come across my mind because I didn't let it. But I feel like if I did sit with it a little bit, it might have come up.
And the Shabnam, you also volunteered in the crisis line. So, what did you learn from the challenges you saw in other people's through those calls?
I think as kind of what is surfacing in our conversation is that people and different immigrants have their different path that comes to immigration. And based on how layered that is, their experience and what they're going through can look different. Someone who has moved for studies might have a different experience than someone who has moved for work. Someone who has moved with a family might have a different story than someone who has moved on their own. But I think a couple of layers that have showed up in all of those conversations is feeling like because they're privileged to have options and other opportunities their community don't have, then they don't get to experience negative feelings about what they're going through. A lot of times I would hear things like, but I have an opportunity to study here. I have an opportunity to work here. And everyone back home thinks that's a really big, important thing. So I don't get to struggle because I have access to all these things that are privileged compared to other people in my community. Interestingly, a lot of concerns around what does that mean for people's immigration pathways. So if you talk to a professional on a crisis line, would the conversation be recorded anywhere? And would that impact anything for them in any capacity? Which sometimes I think as people who sit on the other side of those lines, you don't really recognize as something that people might think. But when you're moving to a new country and don't really understand the systems, I think it's fair also not to know what asking for help would mean for you as an individual. And I think the third layer, probably a little bit of not just necessarily language barrier, but having difficulty expressing how you're feeling in a different language and not necessarily have access to people who speak that language or professionals that come from that background that really understand what you're going through. So those were kind of some of the things that were coming up in those conversations, but also a lot of resilience of here are all the things that I have tried so far. And I'm just calling because nothing that I am trying is really working. And I think there is a lot of strength in that, of a lot of people who have really tried to tap into all the resources they have had to get things done. And I think those are the moments where I would sit there and be like, there's a lot of strength in that, of you have tried a lot of things. Yes, they haven't worked, but just that act of trying over and over and trying to expanding the toolkit is really brave. It's really hard going through kind of failures and things that are not working and still showing up and looking for help and looking to expand that toolkit and looking to do something else.
Yeah, I love the part like people acknowledging and being realistic, like, hey, I have tried these things. Is there anything else I can do? And sometimes that is challenging and is courageous, and it shows a lot of strength and also vulnerability to say like, hey, I tried this and this didn't work. And in Waju, so coming from Cameroon, what was your cultural perception of mental health growing up? And did that change after coming to Canada?
My perspective for mental health as coming culturally, there's a lot of mysticism surrounding it where I come from culturally. Like it's given a lot of spiritual backing when somebody comes up to you and like is displaying imbalances in their mental health. And it's kind of something people don't want to talk about it that much, or they are not even talking about it. But coming to Canada, first of all, I lived in the UK. I had a part-time job as a nursing, a healthcare assistant. So I work in care homes. So after my exposure to people living with predicaments from mental health, it gave me a different perspective when I got back home. Like I would look at a person having an issue with mental health and say, no, this person is sick, not just associating some kind of mystical happening, or maybe like there is always people tend to or see it as a taboo. People tend to stigmatize people who have mental issues or mental health issues. Like there is that accusing finger. You did something somewhere. That's why this is happening to you. But it's a situation like you get to have an understanding that stress, people may have gone through things in their past that they haven't really healed from, and it has a boomerang effect on them sometime in their future, and it leads them into a path where they cannot control, and it's now a crisis to them. So coming to Canada further strengthened that understanding, and it's given me that opportunity to see a lot more than I experienced in the UK, because yeah, two different cultures in addition with mine, now the third. So it's really giving me the understanding that life, stress, we have to strike a balance, because your stress today will be the illness tomorrow. If you want to be free tomorrow and the rest of your days, you have better make today very okay. And we have the decision within us to control our mental health. We have different things to do. Like, don't just lock yourself up in one corner. You can talk, you can communicate, you can read books, you can join communities like what Shabnam was sharing. Just don't keep yourself in isolation. Because I found out a lot of people back home suffered this because of isolation. People will die with a pain inside. They will have something and they cannot express. They lack them, or they cannot be understood because they digress from the conventional way things are being done, and they have a varying opinion from others. So they tend to be like a lot of somehow introspective. They keep to themselves and they don't express themselves. And as a result of this, when they are going through a very difficult time in their life, with this behavior, they keep those difficult things that they could share and possibly have a solution, or somebody sharing with them their own experiences that could lift their minds up and encourage them to stand up and not feel that they are alone in what they are going through. So, and after some time, it's like everything just comes back to you, and it's like a shock to your brain. And there is different dimensions of mental crisis.
And also, part of the things what you're talking about is adjusting to a new culture, and that kind of transition from your home culture to this new culture.
Yeah.
So, and this is a question for both of you. What's the difference between stereotypes, okay, regarding what you've seen here and what you saw in for example, where you lived before? How did those things differ? Because for me, at least, I'm Latin American. So Latin American are in certain ways. They're very close, very warm, and here you come and face different stereotypes of people that are very cold and very distant. And for Latin Americans, we find people that they open up a lot They even hack you instantly. While here, there's a trust level that you need to overcome, like a barrier of trust that you need to face and overcome to be able to get involved into a community. That maybe it took me 3 years to get into that point. But what did you saw in your own communities versus your current ones in here? Maybe, yeah, Waju, feel free to start.
I share the same experience with you. Coming from Africa, we are community-based people. Like, it's easy to just give a hug to somebody you're meeting for the very first time. It's easy to just pick up a conversation with somebody. Like, it's easy to just get into the bar and somebody buys you a drink when you don't even know the person, just because the person recognizes that you are with a friend of his. So we have this community life. And coming over here, I felt a bit, oh, let me give it a shot. When I'm moving on the street, I tend to greet people like I don't know them, but it's what I'm used to. Good morning, how are you doing today? Some few people responded, which was very exciting to me. Others didn't even make as if something happened. But this is me in the balance, in the middle. Where I'm coming from is different. Where I am now is different. I can't expect what I have back home to be what I'm receiving here. So I just have to learn the community way, and perhaps we copy good things, right? When we see something that is good, we tend to copy and like them. So one of those days I went out with like for a gathering in church. I shared with the people that this is what we do at the end of every gathering. And it was quite fascinating. I said, no, we hold hands. If we come together as a community, we hold hands. And it's warm, like we are brothers, we are sisters. There is no difference. So, and the next two meetings, one of the members called the attention of everybody that, oh, this guy told us something last 2 weeks ago, and I find it quite fascinating. Let's be doing like this. I think that, oh, you don't come immediately and try to impose. You kind of learn gradually, then you know how to relate with people. As there are other things too that I find quite fascinating here that way back home, like back home, we don't have pets living in the houses. They're outside. But it's easy here. You have pets living with their owners right inside their houses. And I get to get used to for it's kind of nice. Yeah, why not have your pet close to you? And yeah,
Yeah, I guess you have to be very open. Yeah, you have to be very open-minded
yeah,
to be
very
able
open-minded.
to immigrate and to adapt to a new culture. And how about you, Shabnam?
I think for me was a lot of learning of there doesn't exist just one Canadian culture. And I think that's the beauty of Canada in a sense that there are people from all over the world that live in Canada. They come from different cultures. And if you really feel like you're not kind of fitting into a specific community, you don't have to try hard and hard so you would fit. So finding the spaces that you have that feeling of belonging by default was important for me because then those spaces gave me the safety to play around with some of the other spaces I might feel a little bit uncomfortable in. Because no matter what happened or what risk I would take on having a conversation with someone who might be a bit more closed off, being a very warm person, nothing would happen because I have all these people that I already can connect with. So if that connection doesn't really land, it's okay. So I think a lot of learning of yes, I need to learn a new culture and learn the social norms within that culture, but also I'm allowed to want those parts of me and my culture that I want to keep in me, and find communities that help me actually channel those. So I don't need to necessarily change in all the ways to fit in. I just need to find the spaces that I would already fit in without needing to kind of really mold myself and change myself so I would actually fit in them.
That's nice. It's like you belong everywhere, but you bring your own pieces of your journey. And could you also share some? Did you face any stigmas, for example, as newcomers, such as racial stigmas, bad experiences, etc.? Uh, so I know, Shabnam, would you like to share about something about that?
I think I have not really faced like a specific stigma or like instance that really stands out, but I would say I have tried to really find my voice in spaces that I am part of. Whether that has been in my first job, being the person who is younger than everyone else, and feeling a little bit self-conscious about having English as my second language. Do I get to speak up? Well, like really kind of trying to find my voice in spaces that I enter, sometimes because there are perceived assumptions within those structures around who a successful person in that environment is supposed to be. That might be an environment where it is male dominated or white dominated in terms of the profession. And by default, there are specific kind of ways that system and the space works that might not be quite inclusive to me, but not really waiting for other people to create space for my voice to be heard, but really taking the courage of being like, I belong in this space as much as anyone else. I get to speak up as much as everyone else. And
That's
I
very
think
cool.
that's the tricky part because when you have a community, those are the people who create the space for you. They
Mhm.
are the people who introduce you to opportunities. They are the people who say, "Oh, Carlos, what about you? Like, what do you think?" But when you enter an environment where that's not really the notion or the way that things work, really building the courage to be like, "No, I have something to say, so I'm going to say it." It took me time to really rely on that like internal confidence and finding that voice when I show up to those spaces. And I think it's one of both those things are a challenge, but also at the same time, when you come out from the other side of it, it becomes a skill set you will have for life in different things that you do. So, like, I saw it more as an opportunity, whether that was an internal assumptions I was making about myself because I was an immigrant and entering a space, or because that's the way that other people treated me when I entered those space, just the opportunity of, okay, it is me who needs to speak out for myself. How do I find that voice? And a lot of trial and error and not doing it perfectly, like a lot of failing and not saying the thing that I wanted to say or feeling like I didn't kind of take up the space that I wanted and learning kind of from it. It took years, I would say.
Right, it's part of showing up for yourself and not giving up on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's good that you frame it that way because I didn't think about this in that way before, but now I relate very well. And what in your side, you came from a very homogeneous kind of culture where everyone is kind of the same.
Yeah.
So was it a shock? Well, and also you studied in the UK for a while, so it's
Yes.
your experience being with people from different cultures.
Yeah.
But how was it to when you arrived here? Did you face any stigmas, uh, or do you have anything to address about that?
Um, Not really. First of all, I like to say I share Shabnam's opinion, like I shared. And secondly, Canada is rich in diversity, and the diversity is increasing by the day. And this is one thing that I have in mind. Somebody's opinion does not define me. As long as I'm not doing the wrong thing. I'm not hurting you. It doesn't matter. Like I don't know. Somebody may say stigma. I see it as ignorance. And I see it as a culture because I grew up in a particular way, you grew up in a particular way. And if you're open to learning, if you're exposed to many ideas, then you can learn and you know that, oh, there are some habits I need to give up. There are some habits, oh, I need to work on. There are some things I need to cultivate more. These are the things that will make me shine. So there is this local proverb that goes in my, it's typical with most West African countries that if you are a tree that bears fruits and if you receive stones, it means you have good fruits. So whatever comes to me gives me an opportunity to learn more about the diversity of people. The whole, like the world is beautifully made. You 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 have China, you have India, you have South Americans. I feel that Africa, like West Africa, shares quite a lot with South Americans from food, culture, behavior, and stuff like that. And yeah, it just depends on where you're coming from, what you grew up seeing around, happening around you, what you have been taught, and what you've been exposed to. That will now culminate and bring out the kind of pattern in the way you live. And until you get to learn more, then what you have will be the only thing that defines you. So there was no stigma. There wasn't anything like I don't have those things right in my brain. Like when something shows up, I say, "Oh, your opinion counts. It's different from my opinion. This is the way you see life. This is the way I see life." And that way, it gives me that that peace to just live and know that oh, one man's stuff cannot define the rest of the people. Oh, this guy is behaving like this. There is another guy from the same place with this that will behave differently. So I don't define. It's just to me, a, a yeah, just like that.
Well, I think there's also part of detaching from emotionally from whatever someone is saying at the end,
Yeah,
and just validating someone else's opinion regardless.
yeah.
And Waju, in your journey at the moment, what have you learned about? Because at the end, for me at least, when I came to Canada, I think immigrating in general tests your life, tests your marriage,
Absolutely.
tests everything. Okay, and it brought me a lot of humility. Also, and that humility at the end because it grounds you. Okay, immigration grounds you, and also and also because you're the only thing is looking upwards because you can look down because you're already down enough. So what have you learned about humility, growth, and identity in this process?
Yeah, like you're speaking my mind. I was sharing with one of my sisters in Cameroon today that I thought I was humble, but I have learned other levels of humility. And she was like, "Oh, what are you talking?" I said, "Oh, at work, I used to give orders, but I have to take orders. Not like they are bad because I'm learning a new thing. It's like, oh, I'm not going to school. I'm not in academics, but I have to learn. And learning is one of those humbling things that it brings you to that level of humility that you can now look at yourself and say, oh, this is great. So immigrating to Canada, it has showed me another aspect of life that with the test, like you said, it tests your marriage very well. It did. Yeah, I can ascertain on that 100%. And I have to accept the fact that I am away from home. And if I have to cope, I have to do things differently. That is the most humbling thing to my mind. The fact that I have to do things differently. I'm not there yet, but every day is an opportunity to make a progress. Every day I go out, one of the things I like to, when I get on the buses, I see this inscription, respect senior people, stand up and give them the seat. I sit in the train. One thing I like so much. So that is the humility process too about Canada that I really enjoy. And the fact that I have to now get up at 4:30 on some days, 5 o'clock, it's now a new training. And I find that quite fascinating. And because I believe that every journey starts from somewhere. And it takes humility to have a very good journey, especially the journey up. The people that are up today were once down there in humility. And if you are not humble, you can't get right up there. And it doesn't happen. You have to cultivate it. You have to tell yourself, this is very important for me. It doesn't matter where I'm coming from. It doesn't matter who I am. It is very important for my growth. That's what I tell myself every day. And it's working for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this, Waju. And also because, yeah, it brings you a lot of awareness. I think what immigration brought me was maybe I wasn't as self-aware as I'm right now. I think that's a beauty. I think that's a gift that Canada gave me. It just maybe broke me in different ways, but it gave me the gift of being more aware of myself and maybe more self-conscious that maybe I wasn't before. And for you, Shabnam, so when was the moment where you felt okay? Now I feel kind of at home in Canada. I feel I belong. Like really, I feel in peace of the decision I made. And what would you say about this?
I think it was probably 5 years into immigrating, where I have done all the steps of immigration and I'm done applying from one work permit to another work permit and to my PR, where it felt like I'm kind of a little bit outside of that kind of logistical pieces of immigration. And I had a little bit of time of sitting and being like, okay, what is the job I really want now that I'm done with kind of those requirements that I have to kind of go through for immigration? What type of community do I want to build? So I feel like when I had the space past the 5 years of not thinking about logistics too much and feeling like I really understand the system, where I could be like, okay, so what do I want to achieve in this system? And that was when I kind of started moving into a job that I really enjoy and connecting with people that give me a lot of joy, and I truly appreciate their ways of life. And at that point, I was like, okay, I think now I have my small home of people that I like, a job that I like, but it took 5 years.
One, of course, now you're more self as a career educator at UBC. And what helped the most? People, places, or your habits, your routines?
That's such a tough question. I think a combination of all, but most importantly, sitting back and thinking, what do I want out of my habits? What do I want out of the places that I am part of? And what kind of people that I want to surround myself in? But so I feel like it came with what you said before, self-awareness, and being able to really tap in those three things in a way that is aligned with that internal world. And at times, different things have meant more or less. So when I was starting my career in Canada, the place, being able to move to a different city where I could work in my field faster was a blessing. When it was COVID, having people was a bigger part of what supported me. Now on the everyday, having habits that help me be in places and with people that I really enjoy and give me energy is something that is supported. So I don't think it's ever one thing. Different things have meant different things during kind of that transition. But I think the most important thing is that self-awareness that you're talking about of, oh, what are these three buckets even should look like for me so I can live a life that I enjoy.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I actually see things. Okay, what I see is uh, my emotions as buckets. Even when I feel a certain emotion and I feel conscious that I'm feeling something, uh, I'm not attached to. I try to not be attached and not identify with the emotion, but just see the emotion, just to understand it, where it's coming from. Because I think what I understood on immigration and overall on human nature is we're all just people just walking around with our own wounds, and our own pains. So I think is maybe how can we bring more kindness into this world, right? That is kind of troubling right now. And thankfully, we're in a country where I feel there's it's more in rhythm, maybe. I feel that there's more awareness in people. I feel my country, everything is super fast paced and everyone is speeding up and everyone is maybe walking by default, where I feel here people are more calm. Maybe it's nature, I don't know, but that's something that I experience. And to you both, maybe I start with Waju this time. If someone is listening to this and came with exactly your own journey, or if you see yourself 5 years, no, sorry, 6 months ago before coming here, uh, and what would you say to them? Like, what would you say to yourself 6 months ago before coming here?
That's a tough one. What did I tell myself first 6 months before coming here?
If you know you will come, like,
Okay. Okay. If
if
you
you
know
know
you will come. All right.
if you know you will come
That's
for
a good
sure.
one. Okay.
Yeah.
First thing, have an open mind. Learn the art of communication. Be ready to do anything which is legal, legitimate, and be proud of it. Be ready to learn, and there are going to be challenges. It's not a bed of roses, it's not a fairy tale. But if you are consistent and if you keep a fruitful mind, you climb the ladder gradually and you will succeed. And avoid unnecessary distractions. Have a focused mind. Believe in yourself. Avoid external distractions. Have that inner drive. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. Just have that inner drive that every day you get up from bed, you believe in your vision. Because I believe that I am the only obstacle to my vision. As long as my vision is a reality, it's realistic, it's achievable, it's feasible, somebody somewhere has done something similar on this planet Earth. So I'm the only obstacle. if I am able to overcome the obstacles that are within my mind, I believe, I believe, I'm convicted that I can succeed anywhere. And it happened when I was in the UK. I'm in Canada, and gradually it is going. Like, there was something Shabnam gave the opinion which I shared lastly, like places, people, and habits. A, a cocktail of all these will help. And we have to be very aware, like, of the situation you are in. Which one works best? There is a situation, you don't need people, you need to change a habit. I will not need people to get up from bed at 4:30 because I have a shift starting at 7 o'clock. I need to change my sleeping habits. That's why I said earlier, you need to be open-minded to change. You need people to get information about what is happening around. So when faced with a situation, you need to be very conscious of which of these to use, or these to apply, or these to go for. And again, life is an adventure. It's just to enjoy the fun of it. When you go there, it's not every day you have a good day at work. There are days somebody who you feel was your buddy at the job site gets under your skin, because we have different opinions. We have different things we are dealing with other than work. And I always say this, and it gives me peace. Like my elder brother, I love him so much. We shared the same bed for a very long time until he moved out of the country. I told people I have spent quite a very long time relating with this guy who share change, who wear the same dresses, go everywhere, but I could still manage to pick fights with him. So if I'm going to meet somebody I've never seen before, why should I think that that person should just like me from the very first day? No offense. So this is the mindset I work with. If my blood brother can pick up fights with, I should be able to pick up fights with everybody. And the fact that I can get around and resolve things. So every day for me is a learning process. Yesterday's challenges are today's building blocks for tomorrow's success.
Ooh.
A good mindset. A good mindset pays all round. Just being flexible, outgoing. Life is exciting. Life is an adventure. We don't have two, we have just one. And today I am in Canada. Enjoy every step of the journey. And it's going to be a story to tell tomorrow to strengthen somebody. Yeah.
Indeed. And I think that's what we're doing right now.
Right.
And well, thanks for sharing. I think according to what we've been sharing, I think you're starting in a good way. Waju, I can tell you that. What would you say, Shabnam, in your end? What would you tell yourself 7 years ago?
I would say gather information you can, ask for help early, let go of things you can't control, and be kind to yourself. Like, you can have all the information, you can have all the conversations, and still struggle, and that's okay. You don't need to, like, all of the things that you do doesn't guarantee that you won't struggle through the process. You're doing your best with the information that you have, with things that you know. So be kind to yourself in how the journey is going, and also don't compare yourself to other people and how their journey is going. All of us are on our own paths, and what might look like a very easy one for someone else might not be that internally for them. But that comparison is really a place to, they say comparison kills joy, but also at the same time, it kind of taps, I guess, like taps against something that you have in this journey that is really important, and that is yourself and the internal strength that you have. It takes away from that. So there is no point in comparing your journey to anyone else. Like we're having this conversation, we're telling our story, and all the other people in the series have told theirs. Take what resonates from that and what would be helpful. But at the same time, figure it out on your own terms in the way that makes sense for you. And that can look like a lot different than someone else.
Yes, totally right. Peace for you would mean the completely different. Would mean completely different for Shabnam or for Waju. Like my kind of peace is completely different, and my happiness is completely different than any one of you. So I think we need to cherish our own journeys, based where we're at right now. Well, it's super cool. I think people need to learn to unlearn and to expect the unexpected, and also to change and to expect to change the way they think. So it was great to chat with you both. And to the Vision2Reality people, you need to hear this one.